T-Mobile, and NVIDIA.
Welcome back. I'm sure you missed us in that 5 seconds, but we are back. Don't worry at all, as we have game number 2 on the way in a few moments' time. SPT looks good towards the later stages of that game, no denying that. But Soul Torturers still definitely had moments there where they were putting on good pressure. Even something like the Malfail was very difficult for them to deal with for a lot of that game.
That game 1 has spiked my hopes for this entire group right now, honestly. ST looking great, expecting Taiwan to do well, but SPT was definitely the question mark going into this match. I was really worried for them, and I didn't think they would be able to pull it off. And for the first few minutes, I was like, all right, well, bye, SPT. It was good seeing you for the 3rd tournament in a row. But they really warmed up. They seem ready to go. And going into game number 2, I am excited for this entire group.
I have to, completely agree with that. The level of play that we saw from both sides of the table has kind of been very impressive. I did think that SPT would be a lot more dominant in that game than they were. It did feel like it kind of took them a while to kind of warm up, and they ultimately did feel like they were relying into their old school strategy with the Murden, getting the dive, relying on the picks that we expect out of the Chinese region to be able to recover. And I do question, when you were talking about the game plan that they stuck to, would a better team, after it was successful in one skirmish, would they be able to adapt effectively and dodge the Brightwing, be a little bit more defensive?
Thoughts, Grubby?
Well, my thoughts were that this game could have gone very differently. Like ETC, Scroll, obviously he had some difficulties, but if he just picked another level 20 talent, the whole game could have looked differently as well. It is true that ETC can feel very fragile in the later stages of the game. Everyone's damage ramps up. So maybe if he has Bolt of the Storm, Storm Shield, that would have worked out better than something like Tourbus, which is just making his ult better, but he never got to use it, so might as well have had another. Hindsight, of course, but just these little things can make a difference, so I'm excited for game 2.
Makes sense, makes sense. Of course, a lot of people have some faith here in SPT. 61% of you at the moment on Twitter voting for SPT. And I think ever since they started truly residing at the very top of China, a lot of people have been kind of taking note of that. Let's head to the second battleground. Where are we going to be going? And it will be Tomb of the Spider Queen, chosen by Soul Torturers.
Interesting. Soul Torturers going to Tomb of the Spider Queen is one that they've mentioned in the past that they enjoy, but SPT at the last Eastern Clash, I know they talked a little bit about Dragonshire, but they mentioned that Tomb of the Spider Queen was one of their favorite battlegrounds. They even mentioned a couple of unorthodox strategies they had been working on, but they didn't get to pull it out, so I'm kind of wondering if we might actually get to see that from SPT today.
Soul Torturers, though, have displayed that this is a map that they're very comfortable on. With the Infernal Shrines ban going out, it is within their top 3 priorities, so I'm not surprised to see them go into this direction. But it does, it is questionable, again, with that Dragonshire and SPT kind of going, this is our map, we love macro play. You automatically go, well, this team is comfortable with the 1-4, they're comfortable with prioritizing wave clear, which is necessary on 2.
All right, going into game number 2 here. In game number 1, we had SPT sating half of their revenge with a Bloodlust. And will we continue down the line? Currently, SPT leads 1-0 against Soul Torturers.
Tassadar banned out. Been seeing that pretty often. Before we move straight into this draft as aggressively as we are already, actually, Ariel being banned out now, what did you guys think about Saw here for SPT?
I think he had moments where...
That was a strategy! Continue.
He had moments that, I was pleasantly surprised, specifically his late Divine Shield on the bottom team fight. He was very, very patient and understood when it was necessary to get it off, but I also felt like sometimes you could see that he was maybe out of his comfort zone, willing to use cooldowns that weren't necessary in the situations. So I feel like room for improvement, but this game, it might be able to show a brighter side of him.
Trick, I'm glad we're back to the meta I appreciated most.
Story
the Fire
time.
Lord.
Everyone asked me kind of where I started playing Lava Wave from and why I started playing Ragnaros. SPT talked about it a little bit at the Eastern Clash behind closed doors, and that's when I started playing it. And
they are your
strength. They are the inspiration of why I started playing Ragnaros. Now, I don't think we're getting Lava Wave here. Lava Wave was kind of my own movement in towards the Lava Wave, but the Ragnaros on this battleground, they're like, we don't understand why he's not being played. We think he's broken on this battleground. They didn't show it at the Eastern Clash. I started dabbling into Ragnaros, and it's because of them.
This is very cool. Let's just point out to people that may not watch a lot of Heroes esports, Ragnar's first pick is extremely unusual right now. Garrosh a lot more so, but that is such a big prioritization on that Ragnaros that early on.
And what Ragnaros' biggest strengths are on a map like Tomb is because of his defensive capabilities, and the win conditions on Tomb are very difficult to identify if you improperly use your Webweaver phase. And so what this is going to do for the members of SPT, it makes it to where Soul Torturers needs to be very, very effective with every Webweaver phase that they have, and by the fact that they've committed to a Garrosh Lucio concentrated into kill potential within the 4-man, 0 wave clear with those 2 picks, I immediately go, they have to gank very consistently to this in this game, and these Webweaver phases, need to be perfect. They have to be very aggressive with them, otherwise Ragnaros will be a problem.
Yeah, if Soul Torturers does not get pick-offs, just to simplify it, they will fall behind. They have no wave clear right now, and 3 will not make up for whatever SPT might be bringing here. So that's a great point, Dreadnought. And let's see if SPT is going to extrapolate on those wave clear heroes.
On a map, though, this is where something like Garrosh, mid and upper, thrives.
It is one of the best opportunities because this cooldown is so very short to be able to get the pull in and get the flip over, but it is also reliant on having wave clear in another way, shape, or form so that you aren't constantly chasing SPT. When you are the one struggling in wave clear, if you have kill potential, it doesn't matter because you're always having minions push into your side, which means your rotations are going to be essentially shown to your opponent very easy, and that gank potential drops drastically whenever that isn't there. And without the Rhaegar now, that was the one tool that I thought they might be able to rely on to give on top of Garrosh so he can be in the middle of the minions, wave clearing and being a threat. It's off the table now, so it's going to be, again, another setback here for Soul Torturers.
But it's a very cool early game so far. Lucio gives move speed to Garrosh to get in position for the pull-in combo. Gems that get picked up put a hero in a predictable location for a Garrosh flip. But on the other hand, you have ETC with his face melt that can push Garrosh away. It doesn't put his pull in on a full cooldown, but it can interrupt it and it can save someone from getting tossed. So there's a lot of play and counterplay in that early game already.
The interruption is definitely nice. With this type of composition, it's a great foundation for Soul Torturers, but I feel like there's a rule of 4 for me. If you go for 4 attempts on a kill and you don't get one in the early game, you start to feel a bit behind with 2 Spider Queen. So I'm really hoping to see Soul Torturers get those kills, but SPT has responded well. They have Ragnaros, he can play safe in the bottom lane. He's one of those heroes that is very great at just being defensive. He doesn't have to do too much. It's very easy for him to dance around.
As long as he doesn't go for the Q stack quest on this map, that can really make him overextend dangerously.
That's why I really like that Living Meteor quest at level 1 there. I think it's wonderful playing safe. You're able to get the stacks pretty easily, and it does pretty well as you scale in the late game with the 3% extra damage per tick that you get when you finish off that quest, being able to maneuver it twice. Ana being banned out here for SPT, and I actually don't mind it. We saw a lot of Ana, and it seemed like Kyoja in particular was really great at the blind sleep darts. And if you have a sleep dart on a target, Garrosh walks up, gets the easy flip.
Great combination there. Ana will get removed.
A pick rotation that I wouldn't mind to see for Soul Torturers is after the Vala ban. I'm assuming we're going to see ourselves a Grey main, but with that, again, on that wave clear note and some of the concern I have for them, one hero that could make up for it is a Leoric. On a map like Tomb, he is very, very powerful. It doesn't necessarily immediately synergize with like the Garrosh, because Garrosh obviously wants to get that one shot, one kill whenever he flips you over, and the long sustained fight is what Leoric thrives in. But Lucio does synergize pretty well with the Leoric as well, so I'd like to see them maybe try and make up for it there, because Arthas...
I'd like Arthas.
It synergizes with the Lucio for the team fight, but I think it struggles on, because it's not exiting the 4-man. He's going to be in a solo, so they need wave clear to be able to be clearing 2 waves at once, and Arthas is just kind of a 1-man lane.
You could kind of do Arthas in the 4-man, maybe.
You can, but then you have to have a solo, which is going to be a Sonya or some kind of melee, and you typically stack so melee heavy.
Yeah, you don't want 3 warriors, Lucio, probably.
Yeah, the only situation where that typically you can get away with that, I didn't think they would go into the Kel'Thas, but that makes up for all the wave clear and the burst potential that I was wondering if they were going to aim for. So the Kel'Thas went across my mind while you guys were talking before, but I didn't think they would commit to it. I really, really like it. It just requires an insane amount of synergy from Soul Torturers.
Yeah, typically I prefer the Gul'dan into a Rhaegar. You get the ability for the Rhaegar, if he ever goes for a Feral Lunge, drop a Horrify, and then you just melt him down.
I think Kel'Thas' power level is slightly lower in general, which is why we don't see him as much, but he does fill every gap of what Soul Torturers needed, right?
Yeah.
The wave clear, follow up on Garrosh, he's just easily pummeled and punished. More so even than Gul'dan, because Gul'dan has that Drain Life, he's got that Horrify.
Yeah, the only other, kind of niche hero that fills those parameters, but not as well as Kel'Thas, is kind of like the Jaina, where you have to use your Blizzard to get the wave clear, but it's the those two heroes are very much focusing on, you have a little bit of wave clear, but you also have the opportunity to get those kills. But KT has managed to pull, or excuse me, Kel'Thas has managed to pull ahead quite effectively. I'm still getting over the change, all right? I'm not a Warcraft boy.
It's
Judge ya.
False start Greymane, that means single support SPT. Interestingly, single support is sitting at a 60% win rate in this tournament so far, whereas double support is 47%. So as much as we expected an inundation of double support, first single support is winning out so far. False start Greymane.
That rounds things out. I enjoyed giving you that playful scowl when you called Kel'Thas what you did.
It was a stern look, to say the least.
He is the only one up here that cares about the lore as much. He will ream us all.
Now, just to reiterate, I did say playful at the beginning of that. All right, all right.
You say playful, I say scary. I'm a little bit intimidated by you now.
Yeah, I'll be honest, off camera I'm a bit of a hard-head about it.
Is it okay to call Kel'Thas KT and then call Kel'Thas Kelly?
I mean, I don't know if this is the time or the place where we come to a consensus on what Kel'Thas's new abbreviation is going to be, but I think the KT Kel'Thuzad is a safe bet.
I say do you, Grubby. Just do you.
I swear you pushed this on your stream once.
Trying to make it a movement.
No, I see.
It's the most unambiguous way of actually, you know, introducing them.
Right, nice. But overall, what are we thinking about the comps? How do these kind of play out in terms of the stages of the game? Who has more power? Early game, moving through the stages?
From beginning to end, I feel like SPT has a pretty large advantage. Late game team fighting, they may struggle because Ragnaros can kind of fall off if you didn't get the macro pressure and impact that you were looking for when you ended up getting the draft, especially as a first pick lock in here in this type of game. But SPT doesn't even have to run traditional laning, and they'll still be dominant in their laning. It's only just avoiding the Garrosh Kel'Thuzad, or Kel'Thas, man, we're all over the place with that now, the Kel'Thas combo, and trying to be able to avoid that. That is the only thing I see them relying on, or why they would be successful.
I actually feel somewhat the opposite. I do see that, definitely, but I actually feel like Soul Torturers has everything that they need here. A lot of stunts, they've got the pull in. I think they can... I wouldn't call it snowball, but I think they can do very well indeed. And I'm actually liking Soul Torturers here a little bit more.
Trixler, you need to be my tiebreaker.
Yeah, man, it's a hard one because like you look at all the wave clear for 2-minute Spider Queen, and you can't just ignore SPT. But you look at ST, and you saw the aggression we had in the early game last game, and if they can mirror that in 2-minute Spider Queen, I see those picks coming in.
The one major selling point for me that puts me into the SPT avenue over Soul Torturers, the wave clear is safe, yes, it's nice, but the biggest thing is we have a Malthael into a Falstad and Lucio into a Falstad. Malthael, I've talked about it, I think he loses all trades. Lucio is even harder because he's so dependent on his heroic, and he's late game focus. So they have a late game focus, support with only one damage dealer to get the follow-up onto Garrosh. The odds of surviving that is just very, very likely, and I do feel like that's going to be too much to handle.
All right, well, divided opinions here on the desk. Let's see how it's going to play out overall, though. Always great to hear the opinions in their entirety. As we now head over to our commentary team for game number 2.
From towers to tomb, from not killing a core to molten core, and fire versus fire, we've got game number 2 of Super Perfect Team. Took game number 1 going up against Soul Torturers.
Yeah, and we have very interesting drafts as well. There's a lot of late game potential when we're looking at Soul Torturers here with Malthael with the Divine Shield, and on top of that, of course, you have also KT. So you can do a lot with that. But I agree with Red that if you have a Gust on Falstad, you can really mitigate a lot of the pressure that comes out from Soul Torturers. So the execution is going to matter here. And especially I'm curious to see how far ahead SPT can pull in the early game where they should have an advantage.
The drafts have been pretty excellent so far. And what was also excellent was game 1, but we're going to find out what happens here in game 2 as we get ready for Super Perfect Team versus Soul Torturers.
And of course, the Super Perfect Team is already ahead in the series, meaning if they win now on Timo the Spider Queen, they will pull ahead and we will see them later on in the winners match. At this point, I'm also curious to see how Ragnaros is going to work out for them. We've seen quite a bit of the hero in the tournament thus far with mixed success. Jing Shao here on Greymane this time. We have a Melody C on Falstad. Misaka is on ETC up at the front line. Soap on Ragnaros. Very clean play from him in the last game. And Sa on Rhaegar.
Your dork. On the right side, Soul Torturers. We're going to have Zaze one more time on Malthael. See what he can do. Mur, of course, his buddy from Singapore, moving over to that Taiwanese region. Going to be on the Uther, supporting him. Scroll on the Garrosh Cucumber on Lucio. And Goddog, all eyes on the flames of Kel'Thas KT. Tower dubbing him.
I'm really hyped for this one because, first of all, I want to see how much value does Garrosh really get for Soul Torturers. Then we have talked a lot about Ragnaros. We've seen a lot of Lava Wave play actually on this map in particular. And the question is always, how do you use it? Are you trying to claim a structure by using it with a push? Are you trying to get some off-lane pressure away from the fight? And the first thing that we learn in this game is that from both teams, their spray game is absolutely on point.
It's working out well. You know, we were talking about this before when we were watching the draft about like all the AoE damage. Zay is in a lot of trouble. Good body block's going to be. He's ripping some souls, but he's not ripping enough. Lucio not able to make it down, first blood of the game. But there's a lot of, I guess, AoE damage is going to be difficult for Rhaegar to deal with. And even early, there's a lot of displacement. Getting the early saves on the side of SPT are going to be particularly interesting, although they were the ones that had the first death.
This is why actually the early game is so key for me personally when you look at SPT, because I think they need to try and get ahead here. In the late game, Rhaegar is going to have some trouble to deal with the late game Malthael and the late game Kel'Thas. So if there is not going to be that fantastic Mighty Gust that negates all the Tormented Soul value or Sound Barrier value, then I think it could be a massive problem for SPT in late game fights. So for them it would be ideal to snowball a bit early, get the first turn into an objective, whereas Soul Torturers are probably very happy to just like trade evenly in the mid and late game and then try to find their victory at the end of the match. At this point, we have Ragnaros in a lot of trouble, and buddy, you can run, but you cannot hide.
I was so close to just complimenting this because Trixler made a very good point on the desk about how it might be more advantageous to go Living Meteor, not stepping out, trying to get those Q stacks. Sometimes you don't want to just clear the lane. You want that lane to come to you, but getting those Q stacks obviously are a very beneficial thing, but when you get punished like that, obviously it hurts, and that's one of the reasons that the Trick made. I think right there it showed. We'll see if he has a bit more cautious approach. I was going to compliment the fact that they put Falstad bottom, Ragnaros top, kind of mixing it up so he would be safer, but they rotated pretty hard on it.
Yeah, it didn't last very long, did it? So we have at this point a kill on both sides. Both of the teams are on level 4. Turn-in so far going quite well for Soul Torture with 25, and they are aggressive here. It's actually really interesting to me how aggressive they are with their comp. With Garrosh, of course, you're always looking for those flips, but they are not simply sitting back and waiting for him to get a combo off. They are aggressively rotating on the lanes, using Lucio as just speed boost alone to have that quick rotation. And that's also one of the areas where Lucio, of course, excels on this map in particular. And they're getting the most out of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And so far, it's been a bit surprising. But Tomb of the Spider Queen, obviously, when you get that first Web Weaver turn-in, when you get closer to 10, this game will heat up quite a bit. Right now, obviously, we see the heavy rotations, getting the globes, of course, for Kel'Thas at level 1. Once he gets those 20, his mana pool is incredible. He gets more every time he gets one, but he also gets that shield, which can help keep him alive once he has 20.
Especially against, of course, also Greymane here, who will look for those kills against Kel'Thas. But then again, we're having two supports on the side of Soul Torturers, and they complement each other quite nicely. It's not only the utility that they give you with stuns, boosts, and speed boost, but also the burst heal over the heal over time. Really crucial. And we pointed out the damage output towards the late game for Soul Torturers. Let's not forget about the also famed level 16 for Lucio, where all of a sudden it's going to become even harder for SPT to kill the heroes on the side of the Taiwanese team.
So with all that being said, the potential Divine Shield, the potential shield from the Mana Addict for Kel'Thas, do you think we'll see a little bit of smash action or some wave action going on there from Ragnaros? I know which one you want.
Yeah, I want the smash here for sure. I really want to see them trying to capitalize on a good stun from ETC, for example. But to be honest, so far at this tournament, especially from teams from the Asian regions, we have seen a huge focus on Lava Wave. And a lot of them that you talk to are actually very much in favor of using Lava Wave on this map in particular. So that's the one thing that I really want to see how it happens. While I am against it, I think if you take it, there are ways to get value.
All right, look, all I'm just going to say is if you bent even 5-10%, I will say that Trick has officially rubbed off on you. It is now fully confirmed that Trixler has sold you on the Lava Wave meta. Thank you, Trixler. As we saw another pick there, again for Soul Torturers. You cannot go back on it, Caldor. It is recorded in history.
I don't think that's quite what I said. But, all right, I'll take that beating for now. 3 kills against 1 in favor of Soul Torturers. Very good standing for them here in the early game. Very impressive, and they get the first Web Weaver wave. So the Web Weavers are descending. They're doing well here. And I have to say that right now, Soul Torturers are actually starting to impress a lot. That happened in the last game as well, and it was SPT who in the late game then changed it up. So the game is going to be a different game after level 10, obviously. But so far, Soul Torturers is doing fantastic.
Soul Torturers is saying, look, we're expecting you guys to potentially clump up and spread some fire because level 7 Sun King's Fury, when that Living Bomb spreads, it does more damage. Generally, we see the Q build kind of come out there to get that percentage-based damage when you have 2 or more heroes.
But we talked about AoE damage thanks to Malthael, and now Kel'Thas just stacks up on that. What we've also seen is with Molten Core, Ragnaros doing something where he absolutely excels at on this map in particular. He stalls out the game and he brings you to the late game. The question is just who is going to have that bigger advantage there. And so far, most of us were heavily in favor of Soul Torturers towards the late game. So I'm really excited to see how this works out because Soul Torturers impressed me on the first map. SPT, in the end, were victorious, but let's find out if Soul Torturers can actually make this a 1-1 and force map 3.
Now they're getting a few more gems turned in for the moment. Scroll, of course, trying to hold there. There's a nice cleanse onto Kel'Thas, making sure there's no follow-up. But we've got an aggressive flight in there onto the Garrosh. That's going to be a takedown, but in return, that fire is spreading the damages there. Not enough to confirm a counter kill, but they are still holding their ground.
Really well done with that heavy aggression from SPT. Definitely is saying we are still in this, getting that kill against Garrosh and forcing Soul Torturers back. It also helps them to get their own turn in. So now they are not in that situation where a double wave leads to an early level 10 and starts to snowball for Soul Torturers. They get their own objective, and they are actually about to hit the level 10 spike too, so this is a perfect timing window for them to get some value out of it.
I'm really wondering, it feels like a team is going to have to get some type of kill, double turn-in, potential maybe a boss, to try and get to that snowball to find it, because once you get to 13-16 for Kel'Thas, the cooldown, plus the double Q on his Flame Strike going out there, very well defensively. You already highlighted the Ragnaros as well. And so, late game, it could be there, and we get something locked in there.
Thank God it's still for a smash. I was dreading the moment where I actually have to talk about the advantages of Lava Wave on this map and how to properly use it. So Tim would have had a field day out of this, but we have the better ult without even question. So yeah, so for a smash trying to capitalize on an ETC pre-stun. And I mean, with this setup, all by their side. You get the stun with ETC, you try to slide in, and then immediately you follow that up with Sulfura Smash, and who's there to get the kill? It's Greymane. So it's really that burst damage that you have. Now, of course, you have to play around a couple of cooldowns. You have to make sure that Uther, for example, is not able to save the target with a quick Divine Shield.
He just held that. He just locked that in, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you make a great point, is that if you can get that blow-up style target, it's going to be there. So Sulfura Smash is going to go down, and we got the one-man mosh pit. That will confirm the kill onto Malthael. Just out of range. I'm not sure if that hit directly on, but it definitely helped contribute to that.
Yeah, it definitely contributed to the kill in the end there, and they committed a lot of resources to it. So that's the one, I don't want to call it a problem just yet, but it's definitely an investment. You invest a lot of cooldowns to get that kill, so you need to make sure that you get value out of it. Usually that value is in a kill, but if you can just burn a few cooldowns on the opponent's side, that might just be enough for the team fight. Right now, SPT definitely gaining a bit of momentum, have another objective that they now claimed, and let's see how much damage they can do with that. There's still 2 forts on the side of Soul Torturers, in the mid and at the top lane.
We actually saw the Phoenix being used there by Kel'Thas to try and clean that lane up. Of course, the Web Weavers spawn up in the lane as far as your minion wave is, so making sure to at least push that back a little bit was there, but it felt like maybe a little bit of a misuse.
I'm loving Falset right now. All the way down at the bot lane, pushing with the Web Weavers while the rest of the team is splitting top and is heavily pushing there. So now Falset is already knocking onto the gate at the keep and can always fly back. Ragnaros is even anchoring him here, making sure that nobody can sneak in, but he himself needs to be careful. Garrosh comes in there, trying to get the kill, but the Ancestral Healing is there.
The Ancestral's there, but the Sound Barrier out in return, and there's that gush you talked about. It's isolated Zaze as the Tormented Souls has worn off, not able to get the engage that they wanted, but SPT did get the XP that they needed as they're 13-12. They're going to be short on gems, but they're going to try and get some additional structure damage as we see the response in the bot lane from Soul Torturers on the minimap. They can't stray too far because the boss, of course, is one of those things up at the top.
And they're opening up the keep, and the cool thing about this is really how they put Falsa into a good spot, because if they do that, they need to be very careful that he does not get engaged upon and gets taken out there. But they always played with vision, they anchored for him and made sure that he was safe, and then once the fight started, he immediately flew in, could provide the gust, isolate even Malthael, and they were able to move back from this. So they get the value through the objective. They're trying to play the map and control it with macro game as much as they can with their composition here. So far, I'm really liking the way they're approaching this.
Oh, you cannot walk into a bush. Kael'thas instantly deleted. There's Scrolls trying to walk away as we see Xing Xiao trying to do more damage, but that is a major mistake there, Caldor.
Yeah, at this point, Uther is switching Divine Shield to Quick Cast.
That's a bitter pill to swallow, because we actually saw Scroll go up and check the boss. He face checked the bushes up there, but they had the wherewithal to understand, hey, we've got to check, they've got to be somewhere, but not in one of the most obvious positions in the map. Kind of feels bad.
Now, there's a fantastic Haka video out there that teaches you not to face check bushes. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I might have seen that one.
It's a good one, right?
Yeah. I think it was starring Caldor.
Hi, my name is Sins. So we have Kael'thas in this case really in a position where he shouldn't have been. Being that close there and immediately engaged upon was a problem. Now you can argue that Uther, if he reacts lightning fast here and has those Panther reflexes, might have been able to throw down the Divine Shield, and then we come back to the original discussion. If you Divine Shield that target and it does not get blown up, all of a sudden you committed heavily with all the heroic abilities and resources on the side of SPT. But at this point, they're getting the value out of the combo every single time. They blew up already Kael'thas now twice. We had kills earlier happening here, and their strategy is definitely working out for them.
Right now, Soul Torturers trying to get a turn and trying to buy some real estate on this map back from SPT as they have all the lanes pushed out. And one of the things that you can do is to get those lanes pushed out, but in return, we've got some Web Weavers now turned in by SPT. This is the area where they're going to try and snowball. You've got the cooldown reduction for Kael'thas, but you don't have the double flame strike, so it's going to be a very, very difficult defense here for Soul Torturers. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose a keep, and they got to be careful they don't lose more.
And SPT is pulling all the stops. I love how they're approaching this. They get the kill, they go for boss, they turn in again. They have false set splitting through the rest of the team, pushing through the bot lane. There is enormous pressure on Soul Torturers and all the lanes right now, and that added experience that we see for SPT resulting in the early level 16 talent makes the defense for Soul Torturers incredibly difficult. Their best hope right now is to just sit tight, defend their keeps, try to gather gems after gems, and then once that they have finally level 16, try and push out to get turn in themselves. But this is going to be extremely difficult, especially since SPT is already hoping to take down a keep before 16 approaches for the Soul Torturers.
We've seen a pretty good approach so far by Soul Torturers, but Scroll, the Sulfurous Smash going out. He gets the heal, he gets the armor, he's going to be there. Now we see the Web Weaver pushing into the mid keep. So far, the defense has been holding for Soul Torturers, and it looks like they should be able to hold on to all of their keeps, and that is a major win for Soul Torturers right now.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Ragnaros also committing to the Sulfura Smash, not waiting for a pre-stun. Says, hey, I got this, but then he misses out on the stun, and Garrosh walks away, so that was an issue. But talking about Garrosh, he's in the middle of things. That's the Divine Shield. He has 27 gems. They can't lose him here. And again, a problem that we saw in the last game towards the end, and Soul Torturers start to panic a little bit. The two supports are starting to slack on their communication. We had some very well-timed heroics previously, but right now they dropped the Sound Barrier and the Divine Shield to save Garrosh. There's just not enough communication to hold at least one of the cooldowns back.
Garrosh has a count called Double Down. I guess they decided we can double down as well on heroics. But
they should.
Right now, Soul Torturers really close to 16. That is when Kael'thas becomes so dangerously strong and so defensively strong in the way of clear. He gets the double flame strike at 16, the cooldown reduction obviously there at 13, so those pushes that we saw from Soul Torturers will even be easier as it goes on. And right now it's up to Soul Torturers, well, even Talonteers, to find a position to try and get a pick, and instead they get the toss over as Masaka is going to have to power slide out to save.
Yeah, we're finally in a spot where they have level 16, and we talked a lot about the power spikes that they have around their talent here, with Lucio's extra heal, with Benediction coming in for Uther, with of course also Malthael starting to become stronger and stronger in this late game scenario. Now they have to wait for the cooldowns that they banned previously to save Garrosh. That's another 15 seconds for Uther. But they have the gems for the double turn-in. And that's really what they need to try and accomplish now. They need to push out. They're forced to look for a fight right now and to at least get the objective. Because the one thing that really works in their favor is there's a lot of forts still on the side of SPT and towers as well. So if they get 2 Web Weaver waves back to back and they can take a few forts and towers down, that's a lot of EXP to be gathered and close the gap between the two.
Definitely need to find something, anything right now. There's the grab, there's the toss, the cleanse has now been used onto Greymane there. So that will be another minute before that comes up. Let's see if Skrull can try and repeat that and they can get the pick that they need. They need to find something here as Melody C very far forward. Zay is going to respond, and now that might look for an opportunity. SPT looking for blood.
Yeah, they're trying to go for Garrosh once again. The Divine Shield comes out. Here's the sound barrier. Mosh pit, but it gets interrupted. There might be an opportunity for the Soul Torturers to finally get a kill, but Misaka receives the Ancestral and is able to walk out. A lot of cooldown burn. A lot of heroics.
4 on the side of SPT, and they are long cooldowns outside of that gust. So we'll see how that plays out. Skrull taking a bit of poke damage from Melody C. Skrull trying to find anything and everything to do for his team after a lackluster game 1. We see Molten Core on the backside, however, putting Goddog in a bad spot. The Sulfur Smash going down. Skrull trying to stay alive. He gets the stun on the toss, but that will be a takedown onto Garrosh, and now they're looking for more.
Garrosh is down. Molten Core is still active. Even with Sulfur Smash not hitting, they are getting in the damage. Goddog barely keeping himself alive here with a quick shield. But the situation is very dire for Soul Torturers. They needed the turn-in. They needed to go in here. Now they lost another hero. SPT isn't even waiting for 20. They don't even care. They just go straight for the boss. They know that there can't be any contention at all. They will also have Mighty Gust up. So even if the Soul Torturer said, hey, we have to YOLO this now, let's go for the Hail Mary, there would always be Falstad in a position to gust them away. They can claim boss. And that push is going to be brutal. Not only can they actually time a Web Weaver wave now with the boss, but they will also time level 20 around it.
They'll have 20. They also have just a few gems shy, which means they're almost in for another turn-in. They can do basically whatever they want here. Again, the Kel'Thas defense, they're not pushing with the boss. It's going to buy them some time. The Kel'Thas defense will help rip through this as the double flame strike will go out. The boss will fall, but as you said, 20, dangerously close. Web Weavers have been turned in. Soul Torturers trying to make their last stand.
We're not talking about keeps here. We're talking about potentially the game ending. This keep has taken severe damage. The Web Weavers are descending soon. The 20 has now hit. Bolt of the Storm taken on the side of ETC. The keep nearly down. They can poke it around. Skrull is moving in. They have to try and make something happen now. Falsa, by the way, is still at that bot lane. He's not with them. Here comes Soul Torturers. They're trying to look for the fight. Falstad will go and fly in as soon as he can, but Misaka might already be dead.
Misaka going down. He's staying alive by the skin of his teeth. He does get taken down eventually. The toss in as we see the return there as Sa is going to go down. That's going to be Rhaegar. That is 2 members down on the side of SPT. Soul Torturers is holding for now, but as you said, there are Web Weavers pushing, and the defense is going to have to be here. This top keep will fall, but how much more?
They saved the game. They saved the game for now. The problem is they are going to lose 2, maybe even 3 keeps. That's the big issue here. They win a fight 18 versus 20 because Falstad is not with his team. This time he split a little bit too long, but as you can see right now, the Web Weavers alone, the objective destroys every single keep on the side of the Soul Torturers. Now they could have lost the game right here, but at this point they are really with the back to the wall. They need to somehow find a fight, find turn and find a battle, and just push through. They are running out of time.
They need to rush the turn-in. The turn-in will not do much for you in the short term. What it does, it buys you time.
Yes.
It buys you real estate on the map to start to move forward. Catapults against Web Weavers have an amazing defense. You do have Kel'Thas, which can give you a minor bit more of a push, but right now, you need to get 20. They have enough gems for a second turn-in. Buy yourself time, buy yourself space, look for that fight that you just talked about. Right now, Soul Torturers doing everything they can to hold on.
They need to team fight the entire time now, because a huge problem is going to arise once the boss is up again. Well, there's already an attempt to take down Malthael, but the rest of the team is there, saving Malth. There's already Mosh Pit, but only hitting Stroll. That is not enough. Misaka is in trouble. If he falls here, and he does, that is a bad start for SPT. All of a sudden, Soul Torturers might be back in this for a bit.
You said they need a fight, but what happens when a fight is brought to you? You return with a haymaker of your own. And right now, Soul Torturers holding on, but Goddog gotta be careful as he pops the shield there on the Mana. Gonna keep him alive, the big swing, but they're looking to kill him the minute he comes out of this. He is in a bad spot the minute he comes out. He's actually on the wrong side of things here, Kaldor.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, buddy, but you're not going to get out of this one alive. Goddog survives, and that's the kill. That's the double kill. At this point, Soul Torturers, they have some momentum. The Web Weavers, they bought them time. The waves are being outpushed. They haven't killed a fort yet. This is going to be the first one, and they're moving in. And what I said earlier still holds. They need to take every fight they can get, because the big problem that is going to arise at some point is the boss at the top lane. Once the boss is available again, all that SPT has to do is posture around the boss area, and all the other lanes are going to pressure against the core of Soul Torturers, and eventually they will have to react to it, and this is going to be the moment where SPT strikes.
Yeah, they are nowhere near safe yet, but they are working their way back. Kodok does not have that shield anymore as it's going to be used. They're going to try and look for the fight. Misaka's going to be there. The Gravity Lap's going to grab onto him and go for the throat. Is going to get the takedown. And can he get more? He's got the reset. He uses it. Mur somehow drops away, but the cocktail confirms the kill. Going in right there. Greymane is cleaning house.
Redemption, of course, going to be a factor here, but it's still a 4 versus 5, and they still need to fight. We talked about it. Nice ult from Garrosh. They're trying to get the kill in. Malthael attempts to pop off against Xing Zhao. Goes in and tries to drop Greymane, but the first one to die is Falstead. Greymane still on the run. Cucumber alone already has 56 gems. Here comes the Molten Core again. Ragnaros with a swing, but a big miss.
A big miss so far. Molten Core is going to hold for now. The Web Weavers are falling in terms of health. And if you look at that death, Kaldor, the staggered death is there. If you look at the side, 15 seconds for Kael'thas, 40 seconds for SPT to come back. And as you said, that boss is seconds away from spawning. And that could be a contention point. 5 seconds left. Will Soul Torturers make the desperation call as they're just a few gems short of another turn in as well? They have a few options to stay in this game.
And keep in mind, we talk a lot about the waves being pushed because they lost all their keeps. We have a global on the side of SPT. We've highlighted how Falstead was always splitting, so that is going to be emphasized even more. They need once again to go in, and I absolutely also love the 20 choice on the side of Ragnaros going straight into the heroic difficulty, because all they have to do is survive. The longer this game lasts, the better for them.
They're looking for another turn in right now. Soul Torturers, this is their last effort to try and get control. They need to get the picks, they need to get the fight, they need to get a keep down, something here to try and potentially win the game, or at least take some pressure off the map, because outside of this, it's a long road before you get those gems. The only other thing that you'll have is the boss. And look here in the bottom lane, Kaldor. We have a potential backdoor threat from Falstead. He gets the Web Weaver out. You got catapults pushing. It's getting later. That's going to be a threat. But right now, I think Soul Torturers is in an okay spot to push.
Yeah, the only thing that SPT is trying to do is force them back. They're not going to core yet. Keep in mind, it might look a bit dire at this point, but SPT, all they have to do is defend without losing a keep. If they accomplish that, then Soul Torch have no gems left, and the boss is up. So they just have to be patient. It's the only thing they need to do here. They don't even need to kill anybody. Just survive and don't lose your keeps.
We've got them on the core right now, because right now you could be stalled out from this Ragnaros. They're trying to back right now. The shields have fallen, and now Misaka going in, stalling out the hearse there. The core is falling, the power slide, and we've got a 3-man mosh pit. The cleanse is going to be there, and that is a core falling.
They only buy time, and the core is falling. Greymane is so good there as well, and that is game as SPT claims victory, and Soul Torturers go down 0-2 against the Chinese team.
Wow. It seemed like what shouldn't have happened did happen. The threat was there, and when Molten Core comes out, you get the bolt in. At that point, it's not about confirming kills, it's buying time.
I mean, at this point, as we said, Greymane and Falstead were trying to force them back. And this is the thing, if you go back, if we actually see Soul Torch moving back, they lose the game in the long run. Because all of a sudden, you don't get value from the top lane, the defense is going to be successful, and then you have the situation that we explained. You have boss at the top, the Chinese team is going to posture, and you lose on every single lane. So they just said, guys, we know the core is being attacked here, but this is our only hope to make something happen. And at that point, Falstead Greymane just said, boys, if we don't come back, then we just going to win this way. It was a checkmate situation.
It was a very tough spot, and unfortunately they fall, but they will have another chance. But we're going to hand it back over to Kalera so we can get a recap on this crazy, crazy series.
That's right, gentlemen. Thank you. As the revenge for SPT to start things off here in Group D is complete. And with a 2-0, might I add, Dread, that was a good start for them.
It was a very good start for them. The game, I feel like from a macro sense on the side of SPT was almost near perfect for the first 20 minutes. They played it so well. They were like, okay, give the first Web Weaver phase over to Soul Torturers, use the Ragnaros, double defense, stack the double Web Weaver phase immediately to push outward. It was just eventually hit a point where, you know, they bit a little bit more off than they could chew, and then a great punishment coming out from Soul Torturers.
SPT, got to be happy about that, man. I mean, this has been months in the making. Then coming back here and getting the revenge on Soul Torturers. Now, of course, they have to continue forward through the group, but not a bad way to start. And I think the great thing about that series is we get a feel for how strong SPT is with this roster, and it's good to see them getting wins.
It is really awesome to be able to see SPT kind of perform at this level, and I just want to bring up some of the highlights that I had from that last game, mainly about the laning decision-making that we saw early game. So I wanted to highlight this last team fight, or not so much the team fight, but the decision-making. Sun Qiao is never going to show. You expect the Falstad to be off on its own here, you know, sitting out in front and getting the split push at this state in the game, but he is always going to make sure that he is hiding and never displaying himself. As it goes through, though, he just clears the web weaver, he's going to sit back, and he does a really good job of making sure that they never have the intent of knowing that the Greymane and the core threat is real. It just looks like a Falstad is split pushing and clearing a web weaver phase that you would expect them to.
Yeah, look at him move up there in the bushes, going around the top right side. Never seen the entire time.
No idea. They are just sitting there going, where is going to be the Greymane? Ragnaros does a good job, drops the Molten Core very early as a defensive tactic, and then once they reveal with the Greymane, it's not yet. Up until this point, ST had no idea. So then Sulfurous Smash goes down, great delay, and Misaka just goes stop them from backing. This is the only way we can lose this game. Great bolt in, gets the knockback. It was just so clean from the members of SPT, and this is only the last decisions coming out from them. I feel like every minute of the first 20 minutes was near perfect.
Important to highlight for maybe some of the newer people to the Storm. I think that in that moment, SPT could have lost all of their members in that fight as long as they just bought time, Grubby.
Yeah, it didn't matter at all. I mean, you go in with the power slide, one of the few situations where pressing power slide and mosh, whatever happens is fine, just because it's like a lantern to the moths that of the team of ST is like, oh, mosh pit, let's cancel it, or oh, we got caught in it. No matter what, that was going to be a win-win situation. Very good point, Kalaris.
Good stuff there by SPT. 2-0 victory. Let's head over to the stage to see what they have to say about that win.
Thank you so much, Kailaris. That's right, I'm here with Misaka from the winning team, SPT. Congratulations on your first victory here in Group D. Now I have to ask you, it seems like every time we see Chinese teams in international events, they're playing with a bit of a handicap, a player who hasn't been on their normal roster. That kind of situation, we know ZZH had visa issues this time around, and you have Sa on your team as well. How are you adjusting to that change in your roster, and how is it going so far?
首先非常恭喜拿下第一组的第一场胜利嘛。然后我们也知道中国队伍，很多时候打国际比赛都会吹兵少将。然后这次 SP 也是 ZZH 因为签证问题没法到这里来比赛，所以说你觉得这个对我们的战队影响有多大呢？
首先我们可能之前练的东西都就是需要再花一遍，就再练一遍，需要花更多的时间。然后至于其他的，感觉没什么影响。
I think the most part is that we have to rebuild the synergy, especially the things we practiced before, then we have to do it again with our substitution players.
Gotcha. Now, Misaka, I asked you the closing question in our Media Day interview. I said, is there anything you want the world to know about SPT? And you said something very interesting. You said you have to earn the right to speak, meaning you need to claim a win or a victory to be able to speak. And I thought that was very interesting. You've got a win under your belt. What would you like the world to know about SPT?
在其实媒体日采访的时候，他其实也问到问题嘛，你觉得有什么事情是你想跟世界说关于 SP 战队的？然后你说那个时候说我们还是需要我们用表现说话嘛。然后你说我们刚才是拿下第一场胜利，所以说你觉得现在有什么想说的吗？
我觉得首先赢了小赛区的队，对于我们，因为我们是第一，这是应该的，就不应该输给小赛区。然后其次是我觉得。 很多的话应该等我们出现了再去说，而不是现在就骄傲起来。
I think we're the #1 seed from the China region, and we should be able to take on a minor region team. But I think in terms of what we want to talk about team, we think that that have to wait until we came into the BlizzCon.
All right, one final question for you. You're not quite out of the woods yet for BlizzCon. One more match remains, and that one is going to be up against Team Expert versus Ballistics. You will play the winner of that match. Do you have a favorite team that you hope to see in the winner's match?
因为我们现在只是拿下一场胜利嘛，还需要一场才能晋级到嘉年华的阶段。所以说，你觉得下一场是 Ballistic 和那个 Team Expert 比赛，你是更希望能碰到哪个对手呢？
其实我们对欧洲队伍就是了解的，看他们比赛比较多，然后最近也一直在研究欧洲的队伍。要是就是上来的是 Ballistics， 我觉得也没有什么太大的关系。 因为我们已经做好了准备，跟这两个队伍去打比赛，然后还有就是，想要获得好成绩，就不应该畏惧任何一个对手。
I think historically we've done a lot of study on European teams, watch the tapes, and we understand them a lot. But even if we facing the ballistics, we're prepared. So I think if you wanted to advance in this group, you definitely have to prepare for facing whatever teams that you come to compete with.
Fantastic. I love the confidence. Good luck, Misaka, as you prepare for your next match here in Group D. Thank you so much. All right, SPT takes the first victory here in Group D. We've got so much more to come. Up next is going to be Team Expert from EU. They're the 3rd seed up against Ballistics, the 2nd seed from Korea. They are